Welcome. I'm Dr. Angela Mazza, a thyroid, endocrine, and metabolism specialist with an integrated practice in Central Florida. As our listeners know, my goal for this podcast is to define and demystify the thyroid gland and thyroid-related medical conditions. By providing information in an easy-to-understand format, I hope to help patients better understand the ways in which their bodies work and to help them thrive. My friend and co-host, Dawn Sheffield, is here with me for this episode. Thank you so much for coming in, Dawn.
Well, thank you. I am curious about today's topic, electromagnetic fields, abbreviated as EMFs, because I think it might be our most mysterious subject to date. And I will also say, personally, it was also probably my hardest.
It's a lot to grasp.
It is, but then it isn't. Well, once you get past the mystery, and that's the point I'm trying to make is that at least on first glance, EMFs seem really mysterious, and I think that put me off a little bit. And after helping you put together this episode, I have more questions than I did before we started. But to be honest, I'm afraid that's because I did not think too much about EMFs before we did this. And how many people do? How many of us really know what EMFs are? What do they do? What do they not do? And my guess is very few of us.
That's really probably very true. They do seem like a mystery, yet we live absolutely surrounded by them every day.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. And they are, in the traditional sense, invisible. These magnetic and electric areas or fields, as we call them.
Right, and as we know, anything we don't understand is scary. But as always, with today's introductory episode, we'll shine a bright light on this topic to demystify it. We'll be reminded of the ways in which some EMF generating devices greatly benefit us.
Yes, they do.
They're beneficial.
I hadn't thought about that either, actually.
Right. As well as what we might want to keep in mind as far as safety and precautions.
We'll credit our sources in the show notes, like always, including at least one source that beginners and young people might enjoy so that listeners and students can start investigating on your own.
Keep in mind, we're going to talk in very general classifications today.
For my benefit, thank you.
And for mine, because I'm not an expert. We're just scratching the surface. And as in life, things can vary within classifications. There are some blurred lines with things. There are many parts to this that we just can't get into in one episode. So please check for following up on this topic, right?
I will have to. And this field, and honestly, no pun was intended here. I was going to say this field is really emerging as one to watch. Yes, it is.
While we're not yet electromagnetic field experts, full disclosure, we are learning.
Thank you.
And we look forward to learning right along with you.
And if you guys have any corrections or suggestions for us, please let us know. We want to get it right.
So we may think EMFs are some mysterious force out there somewhere. There
you go.
But they're really all around us all of the time. Right now for us, for example, we're in a small space in the middle of recording equipment with a computer and microphones.
Yeah, I think if we could visualize the EMFs around us every day, we'd be really surprised.
And maybe more than surprised, some grateful in many ways and perhaps a little concerned in other aspects.
Right. And because it may seem like we're tangled in that spider web that we have at Halloween time.
Yes.
But we think a lot about how EMFs actually help us. We certainly did for this episode. The same devices that generate EMFs can also be beneficial, life-saving.
Right.
So, for example, the same computer recording equipment you just mentioned, we use that to create the podcast, but it also allows us to research, collect, and broadcast life-saving information. Not to mention the medical machines you use in your office to save lives. And, RFA equipment popped in my head, which, again, I hadn't thought about it. And with RFA, right, you can perform radio frequency ablation, a life-saving, thyroid-saving technology that's non-invasive, a big win.
Huge.
But I'm assuming RFA equipment generates EMFs.
This is a very good point, very valid. It's all about balance, right? RFA would fall into non-ionizing or low level, which we'll cover this shortly.
And we're not taking sides for EMFs, we're not taking sides for them or against them. we're just trying to understand both sides for balance. And like you just mentioned.
I'm a Libra, so.
Well, there you go.
It's all about balance.
Are you the scales?
The scales.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not. Yeah, good. We'll just leave. You're the balanced one. That's very good. Just leaving it there. Part of that balance is to realize what manufactured EMF generating devices make it possible to do in modern times. And again, I'm going to repeat that: manufactured EMF generating devices.
Manufactured.
Things that were not possible before manufactured EMFs existed.
Yes. EMF generating equipment makes it possible to help us communicate knowledge quickly and at great distances, to perform life-saving yet non-invasive medical procedures. Some of the astonishing strides we've made in medicine are due in part to technology and machines, and I'm so grateful. I think my patients are grateful. Yeah, we're all grateful.
Me too.
The interesting thing, though, and the possible concern is that EMFs are nearly inescapable today. The real concern is not one machine or one test, or a few even, not one TV or one radio signal, and even, many, but rather it's the incredibly vast, unmeasurable quantities of EMFs that are crisscrossing our environment and our bodies in this modern time.
And it's really the astonishing combined volume of all of the EMFs being generated from all of the devices and all of the machines and the myriad sources that need to be considered. And folks may want to know, how well understood are EMFs? How well studied are they?
Right. And those would be really reasonable questions. First, though, I think it's important to note that EMFs themselves are really not a new thing.
That surprised me completely.
Yeah, I did not know that. We just talked about them differently. Yeah. There are both entirely natural and created sources of EMFs. The sun, for example, is one healthy, natural, and life-giving source of EMFs. The sun.
Didn't see that. When we did put this together, I was shocked. I didn't know that.
We can't live without the sun. It's light. It's nourishing. But there's another source of EMFs. This is the manufactured form, generating EMFs in vast quantities by the sheer volume of all the electronic and EMF generating devices that exist. Many of us use these devices in our daily lives and don't even think about it.
Well, yeah, and like many folks, maybe millions, I feel that my cell phone is a life-saving device.
I think a lot of people
would agree. You know what? It could be. And so are my tablet, my e-reader, computer. Life-giving. We don't want to. Life-giving, sanity-saving, and arguably another crucial. I'm a little nervous about this. I know, because I don't know how you. Another arguably crucial device for some of us is the ubiquitous microwave.
I didn't see that coming.
Well, I don't know how you feel about microwaves because I meant to ask and I didn't do it. Anyway.
Well, this is so true. Well, how about we start with a very brief description of EMFs? How's that?
Yes.
Makes sense? All right. Well, EMFs are fields or areas of electronic and magnetic activity. EMFs themselves are invisible to the eye. We can't see them. EMFs are forms of mobile, flowing energy that we know as radiation. Right?
Yeah, see, that was a surprise to me too. This whole episode was a every line complete surprise to me. Yes.
There are various types of radiation. It's not all deadly nuclear fallout, which is what we often think of when we think of radiation.
Well, we do, because when folks hear that word radiation, we're just, I don't know, we're just trained to imagine that deadly mushroom-shaped cloud. So that's why this episode, as mysterious as it may seem, that's why it's really good to clarify.
Right. So radiation, simply put, is just one of many forms of energy. And it's a type that is mobile. They can flow.
Never thought about that either. And X-rays, of course, are a well-known form of radiation. And by the way, just putting this episode together, I ended up having to get an X-ray of something, and I was like, whoa.
Oh,
No, it actually made it so interesting. It really was more interesting.
You're thinking about the physics behind it.
Very much so. So X-rays, of course, a well-known form of radiation. the energy of an X-ray machine passes. It moves through things, like our bones, for example. And this is why we are often given a lead shield to wear to protect certain organs, like our thyroid, for example, from having the X-rays travel from the area that's being imaged to some other part of the body. I think that's so that over time you don't end up with a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
Exactly.
This is why X-ray technicians themselves step behind a shield and or wear a protective garment of some sort when they take an X-ray image. That sort of energy can travel a bit.
Right,
So.
and they wear little monitors that keep track of how much.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Like how much exposure they got that day or
Over time,
ever?
Yeah.
I missed that.
That's
Darn
cool.
it. All right, I would have liked to have seen that and asked nosy questions about it.
Next time.
Darn, yeah, next time.
So EMFs are also associated with the use of electrical power in an astonishing array of forms, including many of the handheld devices and other larger machines we use and feel that we need. I mean, some, like you said,
I need them.
Can't live without them every day. I, for one, wouldn't want to live in a world without RFA, or radio frequency ablation, nor would RFA patients, I imagine, who still have their thyroids, thanks to
Yeah,
RFA.
I'm thinking.
Some other sources of EMFs include numerous forms of created light and also naturally occurring light, so created as well as natural. Like as we mentioned, the life-giving, warmth-generating radiation we get from the sun, nice day at the beach, our crops. No life without it, without the radiation the sun provides. So while we're cautious about the sun, don't want to get sunburned, we also need the sun. So now let's talk about frequency. So what does frequency mean? To imagine this, know that radiation is emitted in a form called a wavelength.
Yeah, most everyone has seen a drawing of a wavelength, even if we didn't realize it. You may have seen it as sort of a squiggly line, a bit like static, or maybe tightly spaced, or a broad, loose, wormy-looking line. That's not the technical term there. I'm pretty sure. Wormy. That's wormy. There are many. I'm technical. No. There are many types. And again, that was a very unscientific description on my part. Sorry about that.
I think it was very accurate, though. That's okay. There are myriad widths and lengths of waves and of wavelengths. Wavelengths come in a great variety depending upon what type they are. For example, some wavelengths can travel far distances, while others may travel, but not as great a distance, so shorter distances. And an EMF wavelength oscillates, meaning basically it moves. So frequency, put very simple, stands for the speed at which the wave moves. Now let's discuss how we usually group EMFs into a couple of categories, based upon their unique frequencies. So there's two kinds of EMFs. Ionizing and non-ionizing. So ionizing versus non-ionizing. It would take a lot of time to really explain ions and ionizing. I tried to
and you
put
might
it
have
together,
lost your co-host. Yeah, Dawn couldn't make it that day.
People will start tuning out. People will start tuning out, and they'll be like, "I'm done." But we're not going to go into ions.
Boring. It's just complex.
Yeah. So, but understand that not critical to the discussion at hand. So,
yeah.
Let's just take a look at these two types and discuss how they differ.
Yes, let's do.
So, ionizing is considered a high-level sort of radiation, and it may, under some circumstances, be able to negatively affect our cells, even worse, our DNA. Ionizing includes, for example, ultraviolet light, X-rays, gamma rays. In the ionizing type, the wavelengths are shorter. This is high-frequency radiation.
And I imagine it like this. Shorter wavelengths are higher frequency, called ionizing wavelengths, and they pack more punch, figuratively speaking, when it comes to energy release. So I picture it like a boxer in a ring, a fighter, with short, very strong arms. I imagine that a strong, short punch, like a short wavelength, has a lot more power in it. And you could maybe throw more of them versus punches that have to come from a boxer with arms that are, way longer and not as strong.
Kind of wormy.
A lot of dissipation. Yes, lots of, energy gets spent just trying to get the arm in the ring and everything. So the fist, that is the ionizing radiation, has more power with its shorter wavelength.
I love it. I love the boxer analogy.
I don't follow boxing, but there you go.
But if you did,
if I did, I'd have it.
Ionizing
I might have to start. I'm going to refer to the boxers in, ionizing terms. That's me.
In contrast to ionizing, non-ionizing has been considered to be not so bad.
Not so bad.
Maybe perhaps not harmful at all.
Oh, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm. So this is sort of radiation that's low level.
I feel better already.
That's like the wormy
The wormy one.
This type is also called extremely low frequency, or ELF, or ELF, appropriately.
That's happy
little ELF. In this case, low frequency, that is non-ionizing, the wavelengths are longer than in high frequency. So like a boxer with those long wormy arms and a less powerful punch. And thus, as in Dawn's boxer example, they carry less power or energy. Despite being a longer wave, they don't travel as far. According to this classification, non-ionizing sources would be microwave ovens, visual light, cell phones, Wi-Fi networks, electrical power lines, and Bluetooth devices, for a few examples. Not to mention, again, RFA, life-giving radiofrequency ablation, thyroid saving. These sort of objects emit a longer wavelength with less energy. Again, longer wavelengths equate to less power.
See, and that's quite comforting. And again, that's why we like to get the facts, because now you don't, less to worry about. And in fact, one note about microwave ovens, and I didn't know this either, I learned it for the show. Here's an example of why doing some research on our own is important, and it helps you become, less anxious unnecessarily. So microwaves contain materials that prevent radiation from flowing out of the device and just out into your kitchen. According to our research, the vast majority of the energy remains contained inside the device. Of course, I would not use a damaged microwave, just as we're told to never use any damaged appliances of any kind. So this knowledge about microwave ovens is good to know, because many of us do love this appliance. I feel like they are, you don't make me laugh now, I feel like they are a life-enhancing EMF generator, as are many other devices. I'm not the scientist here, though, so I'm just saying.
Couldn't we live without microwave ovens?
Oh, yes, we could. And we did. We used to.
Yeah.
But here's the question. The question you didn't ask is, why would we want to? Really?
I don't know, because of EMFs?
Yeah, I know, but see, I'm not afraid of the microwave. The microwaves, this is just me talking.
Millions and millions of folks did live before they were invited.
But didn't they?
And they cooked.
They had to make a fire. Oh, yeah, a stove. I'm sorry. I'm thinking.
You went right to cavemen.
Always back.
Cavemen, right to the microwave oven.
To the hot rocks. You have to heat them up. It's
boiling water.
It's Florida.
Naked and afraid.
Think about this. It's Florida. I don't want to cook on any hot rocks or have a fire. No, thank you.
Nobody's gonna.
No, I just love my microwave. Just do.
Well, beyond microwave ovens, there's a long list of EMF generators, including but not limited to many machines, TVs, electricity-using equipment, electricity-carrying wires, computers, some types of lighting, certain medical equipment, Wi-Fi, our beloved cell phones. That's a big one, and so much more. So I think it's understandable that folks have concerns about EMFs.
Yes, it is. Of course it is.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
One of the concerns people may have is that what if non-ionizing in certain forms might not be as safe as we thought? Just because something might not cause cancer, could it be unsafe in other ways?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a valid question.
I agree.
And, again, I'm not an expert on, just disclaimer.
We're just bringing up the conversation.
Not an expert here. And we all hear some negative, we may all hear some negatives and fears about EMFs, and I think some may be very reasonable, some may be not so reasonable.
Yeah, and I tend to be someone who gets a little anxious about this. Yes, and as we've said, EMFs are a form of radiation. Some people may be more sensitive. There's something called electromagnetic hypersensitivity, or EHS. It's a self-reported condition where people experience unpleasant symptoms like headaches and pain after exposure to electronic devices. There's no clear diagnostic criteria for EHS, and science really hasn't provided evidence that EMF exposure is the cause, but EMF safety presents ongoing questions that need more studying and more conversation about it. So when we first started talking about this topic, I think I remember telling you that this is one that gives me a lot of anxiety.
Yes, I remember.
I think I'm one of those scared people that we need to talk about it more to make it less scary. In general, because especially whenever I see another one of those big cell phone towers being put up or big power lines that run through neighborhoods, I just start thinking about bad things.
Well, I just 100% get that, and I understand your concern. I think many share it, and I will just say that we've made a joke in the past about how different we are, and again, I'll just repeat, I really just give it no thought at all.
It's fine.
Now I do, of course, now that you had this idea, which I thought was
you can't
really
unknow
good.
it.
Now I can't unsee anything. But I'm keeping my microwave and happy to do so. But I get it. And I think for me, it was just helpful for me not to think about it. That's just the fact. I'm not proud of that, but there you go. And I bet you I'm not alone is what I'm thinking. But what I think would be helpful to know is what part or parts of our bodies, if any, are most susceptible to potential harm from, and I want to also say we're talking about excessive exposure to EMFs.
Like
we're talking about walking down the street. Continuous excessive. That's a different thing. What are you concerned about? That's what I want to understand.
Well, I think the concern is we don't know a lot of this.
Okay, that concerns me. Yeah. I don't like that.
We're going to talk about some of the research, but this is kind of like a new area. Yeah. So we're learning more because researchers found that the brain and the nervous system might be the most sensitive to long-term exposure. So our brains and our nervous system in children, I mean, they're like our little canaries in the coal mine. They might be even more vulnerable than adults. But keep in mind that science is fluid. So it's ever changing. New ideas, information, research emerges. Older ideas, what we considered as truth, might be proven or disproven.
Well, we only know what's true based on the facts and information we have in a moment, in a snapshot.
Things change.
But in the next moment, you may have more new information.
Remember when everyone said that smoking was okay?
Oh, and everyone really enjoyed it.
I know, and it was super cool.
On airplanes and everywhere. Uh-huh.
What we feel now is that since EMFs can have stimulatory effects, our brains may be susceptible. So symptoms linked to EMF, can include just a few things to name would be like headaches, anxiety, depression, nausea, fatigue, dizziness, tingling. I can't say that these are tightly linked to EMF, but this is what's been possibly named as symptoms.
Something to look at.
Something to look at.
Do we then have a lot of factual, science-based information on possible harmful impacts of excessive exposure to manufactured EMFs?
Yes. We do have some hard evidence, but I think we do need more research. We need more hard evidence. So most of the studies center on nervous system effects. So there was one study, I'll list it in the show notes, indicating that EMFs can affect nerve activity in rats, and that long-term exposure could cause cognitive impairment, not unlike pathology we see when we look at the brains and Alzheimer's. So we need more studies in humans, however. So these are animal studies. So we're not animals, we're humans. But oftentimes we translate what we know in animals and then prove to humans. So there have been other numerous epidemiologic studies, literature reviews evaluating possible associations between non-ionizing EMFs and the risk of cancer in children. Most of the studies focused on like leukemia and brain tumors, which are two of the most common cancers in children. Now, as far as the thyroid, so our little thyroid, our little sensitive,
thyroid that's devastated by everything.
I know. We talk about how stress impacts it, inflammation, gut health. So EMFs also may be linked to thyroid dysfunction, mainly hypothyroidism and thyroid cancer. And the thyroid may be especially sensitive to cell phone use. So think about how we hold our phones, Dawn.
Oh, now see, I'll tell you right now, I don't, my phone, this is funny. I said I don't really think about it. My phone is never by my head. Just never. And I think that was just something I was told a long time ago.
Right,
and
well,
I'm not drawing any conclusions about it.
Hold it away from your head. So.
But yeah, I'm always on speakerphone. Always, yes. I'm sure you've noticed me screaming. Yeah.
It's really the amount and duration of exposure likely that's most important to the thyroid effect. So this was a 2009 study, and they compared it to a control group where there were significant alterations in the cell phone users. Now, there was a more recent 2021 study that confirms what this 2009 study showed. Again, further human studies digging specifically into thyroid gland function, actual gland changes in thyroid cancer are necessary. So these don't nail it home. We need more studies.
You would love to do that work, I think.
I would. If there's anyone out there that wants to do an EMF study.
God, we did not discuss this ahead of time at all. I did not. I could just see it on your face.
I would love to do it. There's like an EMF protector company that would like to do something on thyroid.
There you go. Well, speaking of which, and again, completely unplanned segue there. I didn't even know we were going to talk about. You were just glowing there for a minute.
I know.
We talking about that
jonesing to do a research study.
Super excited about it.
Call me.
Call her, please. Don't call me, please. Call her. She's the smart one. You have an object. Speaking of this whole thing, I don't know if it's a tag. I don't know if that's the right word. It's a device, I'm going to say, on your dog's collar, on Nookie's collar.
Miss Nookie.
So is the idea behind that, and I don't know what, is it to repel, absorb, cancel out EMFs? What's it doing there?
It's kind of doing a little bit of everything.
It's to do all those things?
Yeah.
Okay.
So since we work in an office and we have Wi-Fi, and she's with us all day long, we use it while we're using the Wi-Fi. I try and limit her exposure because, animals, and specifically certain breeds of dogs, may be more sensitive to EMFs, even at low levels. So, what are symptoms your pet may have some negative effects of EMFs? Well, it could be like they're acting weird, having changes in their appetite. There has been some concern of lymphoma in canines. Again, I have to say there's more research that's needed on this, so I can't say that this is 100% truth for dogs or cats or rabbits or whatever.
We love them and we worry about
I worry about them, and the last thing I would do would want it be to expose my little puppy to something that I can help.
I get it. From, yeah. Oh my gosh, do I ever? I 100% get it. But what's important, I think, is to say that the presence of EMFs in the world, and again, excessive exposure, can't say it enough, to manufactured EMFs does not mean that we should refuse to get life-saving medical tests like x-rays and MRIs, nor pass on having, because you know what? Some people could be scared, and I get it. We are not even hinting, much less suggesting that one should or could give up cell phones, microwave ovens, don't give up using electricity, don't have to move to the woods. Well, they'd probably be EMF. You're going to have some EMFs.
You get some radiation from the ground.
Nor don't forego any of the various comforts that devices and machines bring to us, making life not just bearable, but also happy and healthy. And again, we go back to the balance.
It's all about balance. Being healthy is all about balance. We have all of these incredibly valuable tools and technologies now. They give us unprecedented, non-invasive access to both health investigation and healing.
And many of the great tools that we have manufactured are non-invasive, which is a game changer as far as infection.
Oh, yeah.
And, all that stuff. So
we use x-rays and MRI machines, for example, to be non-invasive to avoid exploratory surgery when possible.
A small part of me feels, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, a small part of me feels like EMFs are something I have both devoted zero energy to and would like to sometimes continue to devote zero energy to thinking about, because I feel that there is nothing much I can do about it in the larger environment. But inside my home, I feel like I might have some options.
Right.
Do you think is that reasonable?
I think that's completely reasonable.
Okay, so what actions can folks take to minimize excessive EMF exposure?
Well, first of all, get solid facts. So don't waste time fearing something like microwave ovens. Back to the microwave ovens.
Gotcha.
Or life-saving medical procedures when it's not a concern. So that's paramount. I think it's absolutely crucial to ask trusted people, maybe start with your healthcare provider or other educator about which information services are trustworthy and why they trust them. That's a good place to start.
Well, I also have to say that, and I have a little love affair with libraries, so, take it this or leave it, but reference librarians, in my personal experience, have been incredibly knowledgeable, tremendous resources. And I would trust those I have met to guide me to reputable sources and to weed out those that might be marginal. And you just really have to ask. And it's super easy. And I do want to add, be really careful about where you are looking up this or any subject. Ask yourself, is this solid science? Can I find these results replicated or generally confirmed elsewhere? Is this the outlier? And if so, why? Who created this information? And what might be their agenda?
I know, right? So we all have to keep in mind that just because something is in print or we see it online or on social media or even in our so-called feeds, etc., that doesn't mean it's true or correct.
No, not at all.
It may have been verified by literally nobody at all. Maybe not even created by a human. So ask yourself, what might be the agenda of the entity writing or saying this? Or who created it? Are they an expert in the field? If not, did an expert approve this? How can I confirm they're reputable? What do they gain by making me either afraid or on a subject or perhaps by trying to wash away my concerns? What are they trying?
Don't worry about it.
Or what are they trying to sell? We say this because with EMFs, as in all of life, there can be misinformation, intentional or accidental, and intentions aren't always admirable. Is the motivation purely educational and accurate, or are they just trying to sell me some device or something else?
And you know what came to mind? Oh gosh, I hope I'm not the only person who remembers this, but nobody wants to be the person wearing a little cap, a bizarre cap made of tinfoil, like in old TV shows,
The foil cap. It was, I think, to repel rays from outer space, like spacemen, spy satellites. Listeners, if you know what we're talking about, we just can't remember.
Yeah, please tell us. Okay, that would be so great. Tell us what that was about, because I can't begin to tell you how much time I've wasted trying to remember what the little foil caps were that you would see sometimes on on characters in shows, maybe movies, I don't know. It's just a childhood thing. And what I think now is our tin caps must have gotten askew and the rays got in, and that's why we can't remember. See, you took your cap off, didn't you?
I must have been.
I took mine off.
So speaking of which, as mentioned, our pup does sometimes wear an EMF protector. My husband and I both have EMF protectors on our phone. I know that's probably not for everyone, but we like to do everything we can. There are certainly things that are in our control, like Dawn said. There are certain things out of our control, in our control.
Yeah,
when we talk about toxins in the environment, we can only help our body better handle them. But just like this, we can control our controllables. So here's what you can do. So give yourself some space from appliances and devices. Create a buffer if you can, if possible. Put down that phone whenever you can.
That's hard.
Use the speaker feature on your phone.
Yay.
Don't keep your phone in your pocket all the time, because guess where those EMFs are going?
No idea.
Imagine.
No, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Unplug from devices in general and spend some more time outside if you can. Limit screen time. You can place your phone in airplane mode. That's doable?
Yeah, that's doable. I can do that.
Consider turning your Wi-Fi off at night and maybe move devices out of your sleeping space.
Check.
Do your own research from reputable sources. So stay on top of the science.
And it's important to do some research of your own if you have any questions or concerns, because the thing is, you may be reassured, as I was, surprisingly, and you may also learn where caution might be helpful. And of course, we hope to do a follow-up on this topic as we learn more and as more facts emerge, as the science carries on.
I know, because science changes every day. But before we wrap up, there are some things called PEMFs.
Oh, tricky.
I know. Or pulsed electromagnetic fields. So this is something completely different from the EMFs we just talked about. PEMF therapy can be used to treat a bunch of different issues associated with bone, muscles, and joints. So this treatment can improve on the cellular level, improve cellular dysfunction, can help treat acute and chronic pain, reduce inflammation, and really support overall well-being. So this is separate. This is a valuable therapy we have, PEMF.
Well, I'd like to really do an episode on it. I'd like you to sign me up.
Let's do
Can
some.
You send me to PEMF camp. Send me to camp. I'll go. I'll report back on it. No problem. Yeah.
We shall do that.
Let's do it.
We shall do that. So I wanted to create this podcast to provide life-saving education and to encourage folks to see a doctor in time to prevent or minimize damage. That is deeply fulfilling. I enjoy helping folks understand how all aspects of their lives are tied to both thyroid and overall health. As always, my goal is to help us live more fulfilling lives by taking control of our health and thus feel our best. In fact, that's why I went into endocrinology. It's a medical art that combines science with the study of our lives and all that they encompass. Our next episode, number 33,
Lucky 33,
will be all about a subject yet to be determined. Sorry. Well, it's determined, I think, just not confirmed. So you'll have to check back to see.
Yeah, I'm going to check back. I'll check back. Yes, determined. I do believe, but confirmed, no. Those are two different things.
We shall see.
Got to get it right. So that's it exactly. It's in progress. So as always, I wanted to say it's top secret, but as always, we hope our listeners will continue listening to Thyroid Talk with Dr. Angela Mazza. We have many more interesting episodes and guests planned. We'll build on today's foundation and cover many topics we hope you'll find meaningful. And so now to recap just some of what we covered in this episode, but not necessarily in this order. What are EMFs? How are they helpful? What are the concerns? What are the possible thyroid effects? How to minimize excessive exposure? What protective action can we take and why? What is some of the current research on EMFs? And best of all, we learned that we can impact our thyroid health, as we always do learn on this show. Dr. Mazza's book, Thyroid Talk, An Integrative Guide to Optimal Thyroid Health, is available on Amazon. There is an online master course related to the book to help guide us to optimal thyroid health. It's entirely online, live, but also recorded for future reference. Participants can share their questions and concerns if they want to. That's optional, and get customized information on how to work toward healing.
And we're having some exciting updates coming with the online class.
Really?
So yeah, stay tuned. Yes, I know. Stay tuned. Think along the lines of Netflix.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
But the course helps us walk the talk to energize our lives. I do want to say, I had 2 patients this week that asked, when is there going to be a movie for Thyroid Talk? I don't think we could do a movie more.
Wow. Oh, never say never.
That doesn't have anything to do with the Netflix thing.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that later. Oh, no. Seems like... Well, I'm never going to say never. So for more information, you can check out thrivethyroid.com or forward your name and email to thyroidtalk.mazza@gmail.com. You can also contact Dr. Mazza's website, metaboliccenterforwellness.com.
So we have initial webinar that is coordinated with the online masterclass, and it's, like I mentioned, currently going through some upgrades. The masterclass has modules that cover topics like, is your thyroid in crisis, thyroid issues, personalized treatments, gut healing, and really a lot more plus and bonuses.
The last session, if I'm not confused, was on brain fog.
You are correct.
Thank goodness. And that was truly excellent. I really learned a lot, and it was actually very engaging. So you did good.
Thank you, Dawn. And for information on at least some of the supplements we may discuss on the show, please visit the wellness store at metaboliccenterforwellness.com. Full disclosure, I personally use and I carry supplements by Douglas Laboratory and Pure Encapsulations in both my office and our online site. Please stay in touch. Check out my YouTube channel. And by the way, we just reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It was very exciting. So thank you for subscribing.
You haven't even been on it that long, have you? I mean, it doesn't seem like it.
Maybe a year, so.
My golly, that's wonderful. Good for you.
So also you can check out the website at metaboliccenterforwellness.com, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Are there any pet videos?
There are still some pet videos on there. They're under pet therapy.
Oh, all righty. I'm going to be watching. Well, we welcome your input. Please submit your questions, comments, and show ideas to thyroidtalk.mazza@gmail.com. That's an email address. We may disclose your general location on air, the city or town, for example, but we will not read your name nor your address on the show. We reserve the right to edit your input as necessary. And please remember that Dr. Mazza reads every question she receives. She cannot personally respond to most of them. Dr. Mazza has a medical staff on site right here, of course. But again, they do not work on the podcast. They have other important life-saving work that they're doing right now. So we do not have a podcast staff. So even if you do not hear from us, please know that your input is deeply valued. And finally, please don't forget also to ask your healthcare provider any specific questions regarding your wellness. This podcast is meant for educational purposes only.